how was your June?
Yeah, same thing. June, a lot of like grads and stuff like that. Yeah, a lot of end of the year stuff. Although not end of the year, but end of the school year.
Well, that's the funniest thing, right? Is that like our calendar year and our sort of life year are two different years.
That's right.
So we celebrate these like 2 year ends every year. July 1st, we're like, yeah, the year's over. January 1st, we're like, yeah, the year's over. We just don't like life very much. We always just want things to come to an end. We're just always looking forward to it just all being over.
That's right.
So depressing. What's happening, party people? Welcome to Bunch More Party. My name is Daniel. This is Father Greg, and we are late coming at you, but we are excited for our best of the month of June. So this is where we talk about all the board games we played in the month of June. And here at Bunch More Party, we just play games. So whatever comes up, we're just playing it, and we talk about it in this video. So please let us know in the comments down below what you played in the month of June, what you like from these titles that we talk about, what you don't like, just whatever. Let's just talk about it. We love talking to you down there in the comments. June was a bit of a short month for me. You kind of had an average month.
Yeah, 16 games.
Yeah.
So, yeah, not bad.
Yeah, so we still have lots to talk about. There's going to be still lots of games to talk about here. So why don't you start us off?
Well, this was still in May, but at the very, very end of May, after we had filmed our best of the month of May. But I went over to Mary and Dallas' house, and I played a game that I've played before, but never in the way that I've played it before.
Oh.
And that was, we combined all 3 centuries together.
Oh, okay.
The big mother century, there's a name for each of like the variations. Like I forget what the 3 altogether is called, but there's like a name that describes it. But pretty good. Pretty good.
Yeah.
Like it's
still hung together. Like, what was it? Crazy long or
no? It's just basically like you can obviously on Century, the first one there's just a card row, and that card row is constantly changing.
Yes.
And in the second one you're moving boats, and in the third one you're placing meeples. In this one it's just like you could do whatever you want. Do you want to place a meeple? Do you want to move your boat, or do you want to grab a card from the row?
Okay.
And so like the card row just like changes a lot slower because maybe only one person's grabbing from the card row every so often.
Okay.
Or different things like that. So they basically kind of like function more or less the same. Each one maybe is slightly slimmed down a little bit. Maybe each
and
one
just
is like
one row of gold cards still, or what?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Basically, there's just like kind of a combination of gold cards and
But would you prefer to play one of those solo as opposed to all 3 of them together?
I think the rules explanation takes a little bit more when you're like, even like there's 1 page of rules like for like the thing, but you still have to like kind of be like, oh, how does that other part work? Because I have to go like check the rules because it'll even on like the 1 rule sheet it'll be like, see, the second expansion for the rules for how to move your ship, and you're like, oh, yeah, got it, okay, cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, fun experience.
So the first game that I played in the month of June was Skull. It was just a church game night, and there were a couple people. There was a guy that came into the church for like a lecture training.
Yep.
And his wife and his mother were waiting in the car while he did lecture training. And I just kind of ran into him thinking that he might have been coming for the game night. And I was like, oh, like we're in here. And he's like, no, I'm here for something else. And my wife and mom were just waiting for me. And I'm like, oh, we're having a game night. Just bring them in. So they came in and we played Skull with them.
Wow.
Just to kind of kill some time. And it was fun. Skull's always fun. It's always a good time. And it just works for every kind of skill level. And the mom got super sneaky and she was like giggling under her breath and stuff after things happened. And she got someone to pull a skull and she was just like,
nice. That's funny. I do like Skull. Yeah.
It was great.
That's awesome. Yeah, so then that same night, myself and Mary and Dallas, we played a game of Subdivision.
Oh, okay. So you're still hanging on to this piece of garbage.
No, man, it's good.
I can't believe this is a good game.
It's just like a puzzle kind of thing. You place a tile, then you put a tile next to it, and it combos with the other tiles that you put next to it, and you put sidewalks down, you get some parks, you get some lakes, just create a nice little subdivision. Who doesn't love a little nice little subdivision? And then we played a game of Love Letter Batman.
Wow. And Mary has been like talking trash about Dallas and Love Letter Batman. She's like fuming.
Yeah. He's pretty good at it. I would say he wins most of the games. I forget who won that one. It wasn't me. Yep. No, it was Dallas. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that checks out. So I think I did come close though, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, Love Letter, I mean, is a simple thing. The Batman variation is weird, but I guess no really weirder than any of the other ones. But
right.
Yeah, it's fun.
So next for me, this has become sort of the perennial, just have some time to kill, whether it be at work a little bit or whether it be with in-laws. Mm-hmm. Enchanted Plumes. Enchanted Plumes has just kind of become the card game that I go to when I just want to kill some time, because not only is it a fairly light card game, but it also has a crunch to it. Mm-hmm. Like, it's a really crunchy puzzle where you have to play cards down in sort of a fan-shaped descending order. Your top row of cards are all going to be minus points at the end of the game, and then all the other cards in the descending rows are going to be positive points. But the colors of cards that you play on the top row will determine the only cards you're allowed to play in the next row down. And then those colors are going to determine the only cards you can play on the next row down. And you can be working on multiple plumes at a time.
Right.
But just those restrictions make for and you, at the beginning of your turn, you always have to play at least one card, and you can play two. And so if you just have a bunch of high cards and you have nowhere to place them in your plumes, and you got to start a new plume, you're just getting stuck with a bunch of minus points. So having to work around those restrictions, having to like not play two cards the previous round so that you still have a low card in your hand to play the next round, depending on how things go. I just really like how it all fits together.
I'll call these like slightly frustrating restrictions. Like, not enough that like drives you like up the wall, like mad with rage, but just like, I can't do what I want to do.
Yes.
It's not, all right, fine.
But it makes the game.
Yeah. The next game that myself, and also this was another night, but Mary and Dallas played, was Marvel Champions. So usually when I play this game, a majority, I think, like, except for 2 plays, have been solo. So I like almost exclusively play this game solo. But this is my first time playing it with 3 players. It went fine. I think I've always kind of like dreaded it with 3, just because everything gets tripled. Like the boss's health, like he has 12 health per player. Okay. So like now all of a sudden he's got 36 health, and like now all of a sudden he's adding 8, damage to you, and all of a sudden, like, just everything kind of like goes up more. So yeah, yes, you're dealing more damage to him, but it's just like everything feels so much bigger. Right. It's like, oh god, we have to do 50 damage to him. How are we ever going to do that?
Right.
And we came very close to winning. We lost, but they were playing with like starter decks, and I at least come in with something that I built. I was trying to like make something happen, but
this is when they were Rogue and Gambit.
That's right. Yes, yeah. They just got Rogue and Gambit, and they wanted to give it a shot, and it was Cyclops running around
without your love, without Jean Grey. That's why he lost.
Yeah, I know, man.
Player to be Jean Grey.
I know.
It could be a double date.
It's terrible. I had all the other X-Men. I was recruiting everyone, and then we played Isle of Skye.
Okay.
Another classic.
This comes up a lot on this list.
Recently, recently I've had this game. I always loved it, but recently I've kind of got into it, and like I showed it to Ray and Dallas, and then they bought the big box with like all of its expansions, and so we haven't really gotten into the expansion stuff yet. But I will happily play this game anytime that it's brought out. Like I don't every time, even like we've gone to Dave's and he's like, "Oh, we can play Isle of Skye." I'm like, oh, yeah, we could.
I'm avoiding it like the plague, man. I love it. Bad taste in my mouth. The first time I played it, I just didn't get it, and I'm still just resistant. But I gotta just cover out of that. I have this on my list much earlier than you do, because I started playing the Ascension app. Okay, so Ascension is a deck building game that came out just after Dominion.
Long time ago. Long time ago.
That's right.
Like a really why are you into Ascension? Like what? Like I don't what happened?
So there was a time in my gaming life where I avoided certain games because they look too creepy or they look too demonic or these kinds of things. I just wanted to stay clear. But Ascension always I was always attracted to it. Like I thought the gameplay style and even just the world you're in, I found it appealing. So I've gotten over a little bit of my apprehension about those things and just sort of relegated it all to fantasy. And here I am feeling comfortable playing Ascension. And so I downloaded the app and I started playing it. And this is a slick game. And then I got so enamored with it that I went online on Facebook group and I was like, hey, who has a copy of this that I can buy off you? And so I got essentially a couple expansions in hard copy, and so we played with Dave. Mm-hmm. I kind of had to push it on you guys a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. It's like, why are we playing a big old deck builder? But all right, sure.
It's not a big old deck builder.
Right.
It's a nice, simple. So the innovation at the time was that you have two kind of currencies. So you have your kind of buying power to purchase cards, and then you have cards that you need to defeat, like monsters that you need to slay. Yep. And so you can either kind of go down the road of slaying a lot of monsters and getting victory points that way, or buying cards that will have lots of victory points in the corner, or generate victory points by playing them in different ways and comboing the powers and typical deck building stuff. But I really, really, really like it, especially in light, like hindsight 2020, where I've played Clank and Clank has come up short for me, and realizing that probably the inspiration for Clank was Ascension, that you have these kind of two ways to, you know, you can travel or you can fight.
Right.
And then you have buying currency, like Clank adds the third kind of thing. But having it just stripped down to you don't have to worry about board, you don't have to worry about anything, you're just doing simple deck building, and you also have these two currencies, and like you're kind of being pulled in two different directions as you play. I really enjoyed it.
I was going to say, I think having played it, it's obvious that, like, yeah, Clank, I'm sure, must have used Ascension. Because, yes, like, in Dominion, you're just buying cards. Like, you're either buying estates or you're buying other cards, but, like, you're always buying something.
Yes.
Whereas, yes, this idea of, like, oh, you're buying cards or you're using your swords to defeat things. And that very much shows up in Clank. So, yeah, cool to see. I think it is. It's like, it's a deck builder. That's what it is. Yeah. But it's slick. It's pretty...
It is slick.
The next games that I played was, we played a little game of Splendor. A little classic, just a little, you know, quick, little easy breezy game of Splendor. And, you know, it's just satisfying. You know, Splendor's just, I don't know, I get it. It's like, it's a slick game. I've introduced this game to people, like, even me and Father Dan, we used to play this a lot, and we haven't played it in, like, forever. But I remember, like, even, like, on Board Game Geek, even just, like, a lot of people would just rank their plays, and it would show, like, what has been played the most this month. Now, of course, it's easy to play Splendor. Yes. It only takes like half an hour. But Splendor, like even a couple of years ago, was really at the very top of that list.
Yes.
Like Splendor would just get played a ton. Like lots of people log their plays of Splendor, you know, into Board Game Geek. So it was cool. And then I played the Church Board Game Night King of 12.
Yeah. Love this game, man. And I just sat around watching them play it, pulling their hair out, getting so frustrated.
This game... So, like, I remember you playing this game with me at one point. I don't remember if we played it differently.
When I first moved back.
But the thing is, so you got this dice, and some cards, you basically want to have the highest number on your dice at the end of the thing. But you have all these different cards that modify the dice, or that change the rules. Maybe the lowest dice now wins, or
it's
whatever.
It's sort of like a roll selection, where everyone has the same deck of cards, and then you each simultaneously choose a card to play, and then you reveal it. If two people or more play the same card, then those cards are just canceled. And you don't do the ability. And then your die values, if there's same die values are on the table, they get canceled.
Right.
If there's point values that are the same, they get canceled. And then you're left with whoever is best out of that.
But some cards modify the dice in that you actually take the dice and like flip it to its opposite side, or like you actually physically change the dice. But then there are a bunch of cards that just like change the value of it, which you have no way to mark except like just purely in your mind. And so, like, half of the time, you're looking at the board, and, like, you see, like, you've got a 9, and the guy next to you's got a 6, and you're like, oh, I'm beating him. But, like, then he's like, oh, no, actually, my die value is +5. But, like, I can't change my dice to show you that. It's just, like, something I have to keep mentally... Like, it's just infuriating.
But it's not nearly as bad as you're making it sound, because you're sitting around the table and the person has a dice and a card in front of them.
Yeah, but like...
And so you have the same cards in front of you, so you know what those cards do. So you see the card, you see the dice, you go, oh, that's the +5 card, or that's the +15, or whatever, and you just do the... same equation that he's doing.
But there's like 5 cards around the table, so there's like 4. This card changes the value, this guy...
It only plays 4 players. There's just 4 things. It's just a simple look at the dice, look at the card. It's not what you're making it out to be. You're just making excuses.
This is a useless game. I'm done with King of 12.
That can't be true. Oh. So when Sarah's dad was visiting, he got us... some time away. He took care of Owen and Ethan, and we took Ellie, and we went away to Elk Ridge. Spent some time in a cabin there, just overnight.
Fancy.
And so we played a couple games together. And so we played a nice little game of Lost Cities together.
Wow.
So Mary and Dallas have been talking about Lost Cities. You had played Lost Cities. And so we played Lost Cities. And it just has that magic, you know. I did terrible. Terrible. I can't seem to muster up a good score in this game whatsoever. But Lost Cities is such a nice design. It creates so much tension. And what am I willing to give to my opponent? What am I hoping to get? Am I willing to kind of go through the deck more to find the cards that I want before I start playing onto that expedition? Or if I keep on going through the deck that way, is the game going to end prematurely and I won't have time to play these cards out of my hand? The crunch time moment in this game is always when you don't have the 4 and the 5, but you have the 6, 7, 8.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, do I wait to try and get those other numbers, or do I just play these down in the expedition and forfeit ever getting the 4 and 5 played or whatever? That's such a brilliant decision to try and figure out, do I have time to go looking, or do I have to cut my losses now?
People have been trying to get me into liking Uwe Rosenberg, you know.
People have been getting you. You've been just diving in head first.
Yeah, you started it, and then everyone else has been trying to get me to play Uwe Rosenberg games. And so I went over to Father Dan's house, and he pulled out Newsford.
I've been really curious about Newsford.
Right.
Is this in the same weight as Glass Road, or is it heavier? I heard that it was kind of comparable.
I think. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No,
it's a lighter design than his typical.
It's not light, but maybe in his lighter. Yeah, you know. But there's still a fair bit of there's still a fair bit of meatiness kind of going on. But kind of that same idea where like you've got like forests on the board, you have to like clear the forest away so you can build, you know, on the spots, but like maybe you don't want to, maybe there's a card, you know, that benefits you for having a bunch of forests, you know, still on the board. And there's a lot of fish, just fish everywhere. Just a lot, copious amounts of fish.
Well, that lighthouse on the board kind of gives that away, you know?
That's right.
It's a Maritimers game. I should give this a try.
So yeah, it's just like there's a nice kind of like balance of kind of like trying to build buildings onto your spots, but also getting like these like citizens into your I don't know, your town to help you out or whatever. And so, yeah, you're trying to like recruit these guys and bid on plates. There's plates with fish on them. I don't remember a lot about this game, to be honest, but like I had to like look up pictures of it just because I was like, oh yeah, that's what I've been using for. But I remembered enjoying it. I remembered having a good time bidding on these plates with fish on them.
2 thumbs way up.
Yeah, that's right.
So, speaking of Uwe Rosenberg, I play a Stefan Feld game. I just feel like they're both heavyweight designers. You know? Father Dan, through his brother Dave, was selling a few games. And so I saw Castles of Tuscany come up on Kijiji, and I thought, you know what? I've always been intrigued. Ever since I heard about this game, I've always wanted to try it, because people who love Castle of Burgundy complained about this game to no end, that it was just a bunch of trash, too light, too lucky. I like light and lucky. So I wanted to give it a try. And so I bought Castles of Tuscany off of Father Dan through Dave and played it with Sarah at our little time away at the cabin. And you know what? I like Castles of Tuscany. I see all of the problems that people have with it. Okay, so this is quite lucky. The cards, like there is kind of this sort of ticket to ride mechanism where you're drawing cards and you're trying to get pairs of colors of cards, and then you're able to play a pair of cards of a certain color or type to build a tile onto a certain color tile. And so you're kind of restricted sometimes. You can always pay like 3 or 4 of a kind or something to make up for one, or I forget exactly how it works, but you can play multiple cards of the same color to stand in for another card of another type. And you're just basically trying to make connections of the same type of terrain type on your board, and you're able to score points based on completing sections. And there's like sections of 1, sections of 2s, and sections of 3s of these different types. And whenever you build a particular terrain type, it gives you like a little bonus that corresponds to the terrain type. And then you have your own little personal player board where you're able to, by doing the red action, you're able to kind of add bonuses to the other actions. So that when you do that action is now better for you. So I'm doing the draw cards action, now I'm drawing an additional card. The criticism there is that you only are ever going to have maximum of 4 upgrades on your player board. And it would have been nice to be able to have a little bit more of that. Because that was fun to like, I'm going to really invest in being the drawing cards guy. So I never have to worry about that. But then you kind of want this other thing too. So, I mean, that's where the crunchiness comes in for it. But I liked it the first time we played it. Sarah was sort of like, ah. So the next morning we played it again and she liked it better. So that's neat, right? Is the game seems to get better kind of play after play. If you go into this thinking there's going to be Castles of Burgundy light or just sort of some kind of iteration, it's not really. It shares some very basic mechanisms in basically playing tiles onto a particular kind of space. That's pretty much all you're doing that's the same.
Right.
Otherwise, this is just a nice, light, snappy, dry Euro game that I quite enjoyed.
Yeah, it's been a long time since I played Castles of Tuscany, but I do remember enjoying it. Yeah, for sure. Then I went back over to Marion Dallas. Let's play a lot of games with them this month. And
hanging out too much with them, if you ask me. They're a bad influence on you.
Maybe. So I think we played my favorite game from the publisher De Vere. And that is Red Cathedral.
Whoa, you liked it a lot. So, Mary didn't really like it.
Yeah, she doesn't like dry Euros, you know. She's a little weird that way. You know.
Yeah, she's a little weird, that's true.
So, but I think I really like Rondels. I think Rondels, I don't know, they speak to my heart or something. I don't know what it is about just going in a circle, but I feel like maybe it emulates my life or something. Just running in circles. I don't know what it is, but there's just something about like, you're moving these dice around this kind of rondel that symbolizes like the 4 seasons or something, and you know you stop at a various place and you can move any dice, but you have like kind of your own color of dice, and so there's like maybe an advantage to moving your dice, especially you can kind of like buy upgrades for different colors of dice, so I can like maybe even invest in your dice being good or whatever. But then you're trying to build, and there's like this area majority thing where you're trying to kind of like a Sara, like you're building these towers, like these peaks of the different towers of the cathedral in Moscow. And so like you're building a tower, but then you're also like putting like windows on it or a cross on the top or like a door at the bottom and stuff like that. And so then if you have the most points in that particular column, you're going to score the most points for it and so on. Yeah. As you kind of go through like each of the little spires, and whichever has the most points wins. So yeah, I really enjoyed the Red Cathedral. A nice little slick design. Yeah, this has been on my list for a long time to want to get played. And then after that, we played Cryptid. And Cryptid's a game I've talked about a whole lot, so a couple returns. We played like 2 games of this, and I had fun. I think I get expert mode a little bit better now. I think something clicked in my mind. Expert mode was always like, oh, this is actually significantly harder. And now I kind of just takes a little mental leap, but once you kind of figure it out, it's like, okay, I think I get this now. You guys are leveling up. But yeah. Okay, so next on my list, maybe jumping forward in time for you a little bit, but we headed over to Dave's. You got there first. Okay, so you got to Dave's first. Yep. I showed up a little later, kind of walked in, and all of a sudden there was a game set up. Yeah. There's a game set up already on the table, and I said, holy Hannah, I guess we're doing this. I walked into Dave's without any games at all, and then we just started talking, and we were like, what should we play? And Dave was like, I really want to play Carnegie. And I was like, I think I'm going to Carnegie my car, actually. So I went out and grabbed it. Then Dave asked me, he said, well, will Dan enjoy this? And I said, yeah, he'll be fine. Don't worry about it. And I was fine. Carnegie fits into the same category for me as a few games like Brass, Birmingham, Power Grid, this kind of thing where the thought about playing the game
is kind of onerous to me. It's sort of a bit of a burden to be like, okay, because you need to come at these games, especially like Carnegie, with a certain kind of wherewithal. You need to have a certain kind of financial prowess that you're willing to bring to the table, and a real kind of hard-headedness, stiff-neckedness to really make it through.
Sure.
Once I kind of mustered that up within myself as we started kind of moving things around, I was like, okay. And so I really enjoyed my play again of Carnegie. Again, I'm not trying to be mean. I just think this theme is boring as all get out. Like, I just think this is so boring. You're literally moving little men around an office building. Like, that's what you're doing.
Yeah.
You're just like, I wonder which office this guy should work in now. Oh, darn, I don't have enough action points to get him there.
Right.
So that part of the game, like how you select your actions is you have all these meeples, and one of the actions allows you to move your meeples to the different rooms from which they can then do actions when that action or type of action is selected. The cool thing about the game is that when an action type is selected, you get to kind of activate all the rooms in your building that correspond to that action. That's really cool, right? But actually getting the guys into the room so you can do the action, it's almost like we were talking about earlier about Enchanted Plumes, if it's like a frustrating restriction. But for me, this restriction is like a little too tight, where I feel a little bit like too hemmed in. But the rest of the game, putting your markers on cities, trying to connect big routes, like that's always my goal in this game, is to get to all the 4 major cities. Like that's what I'm trying to do. And that's really satisfying. And making the donations to get little extra victory points. So basically the donations are endgame scoring conditions that you can claim at different points in the game. So at different points of the game, when you choose an action and the action token moves into the donation slot, then everyone has the opportunity to make a donation. But every time you make a donation, the price for the donation goes up, not exponentially, but just goes up by 5,
15, 20.
Yeah. And so it's kind of cool to be like, am I willing to spend $15 to get an end game condition that I'm not really sure I can...
Right, it gives you 6 points.
You make it work. So there's a lot about this game that I do like, but the core action selection mechanism is not my favorite. So I have to get over that in order to enjoy the rest of the game, which I do. I do greatly enjoy.
Yeah, this is a game that I really, really do enjoy. It's a little bit... I'm hesitant to teach this game because I think the learning curve of the rules explanation is not that difficult, but the grokking of the game, we kind of speak of understanding how do I do well, or how do I achieve my goal. It's you want to move your guys to office buildings so that you can move them onto the board, so that when they get recalled from the board, when this token gets to that spot, then you're going to get income, and then you'll be able to use that income to donate to healthcare businesses. And it's so how do I get money? Well, you need to send your work
that's right,
to this office to send them out. Well, I had another, I've talked about him in the past, but Father Santosh, kind of a new board gamer, a guy kind of so he came over to play some games, and I thought, I probably should have taught him this game a little while ago, because I played some decently, maybe decently beginner games with him, but I pulled out Ticket to Ride Europe.
Wow.
Let's play a little Ticket to Ride. And he really enjoyed it. We had a lot of fun. Classically connecting routes throughout Europe.
That's awesome.
What more do you want in life? I don't know.
Much.
I still
Do you play it mean, though? Or you just...
Sure. Oh, yeah.
Okay, you got it.
Yeah, maybe not with him as much, but if I'm playing against you or something, for sure. Come on. No. I mean, okay. Anyone who's ever played this game before.
That's right.
If I'm teaching it to them, yes, I might not actively try to get it. He got in my way more often than.
Oh.
Yeah, actually, he smoked me. Actually, usually I claim that I can win at Ticket to Ride most of the time, but I was this close, but I didn't. I missed a lot of routes. Let's just put it that way. I don't think I've ever had a worse score at Ticket to Ride ever.
Okay.
But I still love the game. I will play this game anytime.
Okay, so when Mary's away, the boys will play. All right. So we went over to Dallas's house. It wasn't Mary in Dallas's house anymore. It's Dallas's house.
Right.
Anyway, you played a game before I arrived. I had to arrive late, just putting kids down to bed and things like this. But then I brought with me Earth. And a couple of the guys said, you know what, I'd like to try that, you know? And you were kind of open to it, but you'd been avoiding Earth a little bit, let's be honest, you know? But it got there. And it just confirmed for me that this game is absolutely awesome. What I really enjoy about the game, like, yes, again, a boring theme. I always have to get over that hurdle. That's my hurdle to get over. But this one, every time I play it, it's just making it more and more attractive to me. Where now Earth is squarely a medium weight game. The first time I played it, it was a heavy game. It felt like a heavy game. I couldn't get my head quite around it. It felt hard to do all the things I wanted to do. Now, after this play of it, no, this is a medium game. It's not super hard to explain. There's a few things that you kind of have to go, wait, what's that? Like, there's specific language in the game about, you know, what's growth and what are sprouts and what are... That kind of you have to sort of get used to. Once you get that down, you just realize that this is a big old conversion engine. Like, you are just kind of picking which kind of way to get points you want to focus on the most, and then which kinds of ways to get points you want to focus on a bit, and just kind of keep on doing that. Right. You know? Because you're always going to have to sacrifice one kind of points to grow in another kind of points. And so you always have to just sort of make those decisions. And then the way that you're building the cards in your tableau... You're also worried about kind of endgame scoring conditions. This card will score you however many points for every mushroom in its column. And this card will score you points for being adjacent to empty spaces or whatever the case. Right. And so you kind of have two things going on. Is you're trying to meet the conditions of the animals that are kind of out in a shared board where you're kind of racing to get to those victory points. So being worried about what cards you're playing and in what order you're playing them at the same time as just trying to make the resources work in your favor. And just a simple action selection mechanism, again, a la Carnegie a little bit, of one player chooses an action, except in this case, they get a better version of the action and everybody else gets a smaller version of the action. But games where you're always doing something on someone's turn, it's just a good feeling. It just feels really good. So yeah, I really enjoyed this play of Earth. It has cemented Earth. Today I sat down and I was kind of putting in some of my backlog on BGG. And so Earth gets a 9.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So yeah, I think this game is like terraforming Mars, but like it actually matters where you put the cards, right? It's like, like you get all these cards, but instead of just lining them up in like a little column or something, you're like, oh no, where do I want to put this? Do I want to put this in this column, in this row? Yes. You know, for me, I think I'm always going to compare it to Arc Nova. In that style, Arc Nova I think is longer and a bit meatier, and I think probably most of the time I'm going to prefer Arc Nova to it, but it's still a solid production. For me, like, Earth is going to win every time because of the weight decrease from Arc Nova. It just makes it so much better for me. I get the same sort of crunchy feeling, and I'm not having to worry about all the extra stuff that Arc Nova makes you worry about. I just got to worry about sort of the card problem. And, I love for that reason. No, cool. Yes, so just before he came over and played Earth, I played Raw. Raw is... man, this is a great game. This is like... just a bidding game, you know? I don't know what to say about it, except that it's just really enjoyable. You could probably talk about it as... you know, it's going to come up on your list. That's right. This is like an old... I don't know when Raw originally came out.
It was pre-2000. I think it was like 98 or something like that.
Yeah, and I think when we had done our like pre-2000 games, I was like,
we hadn't played it yet.
I should play Raw, and then went over to Dallas House, like the new edition. It's got big, chunky tokens. Some of them are unnecessarily large.
Very satisfying tokenage. Yes,
very, very satisfying. But yeah, just a really good experience. Enjoying that. I like bidding games, I think.
So the second last game I played in June was over with Mary in Dallas, and I finally got... Mary, a long time ago, had come to a church game night and played Dogs of War, and she really liked it. And Dallas had never gotten a chance to play it. Well, once I was there, I was like, okay, Dallas should play this too. So I kind of pushed it on them, and we played it. Now, I was remembering a game that I played this a long time ago when I was in Ontario, and we played 3 players, and that's the minimum player count. And you have the option, there's 3 battles that are contested each round. That there's different family houses that are warring against each other. And there's 3 of these battles each year. 4 years, 3 battles. You're kind of influencing these battles to try and make the houses that are going to make you the most victory points go up in the rankings. That's essentially what you're up to. There's the option to take away one of the battles for a 3-player game, where you're just doing 2 battles. And I remember having a really amazing 3-player game of this, and I couldn't remember what we did, if we had played with 3 tracks or 2 tracks. And partway through this play, I realized, we took away a track when I was playing before. Because this was fine. It worked fine. And there were still moments of consternation and frustration and getting all up in each other's grills. But it could have been a little tighter. So this is a game that, like, the plays do vary wildly. From play to play of this game, you're going to have quite different experiences based on how the houses line up against one another, how they line up against each other in subsequent rounds. So if you have houses that are continuously lining up against each other, then one house is just moving up the rewards track and the other house is staying far behind. And then nobody's investing in the house anymore, so the tension's kind of gone out of that experience. Or you just keep on kind of coming to the party late, just like the way the turn order is working, you just can't quite seem to get something going on. So Mary, this game had she struggled to get, because a big part of the game is that you go to action spaces, there's a tension. You go to these action spaces to do kind of a worker placement action where you get a reward, but you're also simultaneously doing an area control thing where you're trying to win a tug of war on these battle tracks. And so your motivation to go onto this side might be the reward, but on this side is the house that you actually want to support. And one of the rewards is getting shields, and you get shields that correspond to the house that you're supporting that turn. These shields are worth the amount of points that house's banner is up on this kind of main track. And you get up that track by winning battles with those houses. And so Mary just had 2 sets of shields that just weren't getting worth very much. And she had to sort of make a choice between making this house worth more at the expense of not having this house be worth more. So she just got caught. And it just wasn't great.
Right.
And it sort of takes the air out of the game a little bit when that happens to a player, when they're just kind of like not in it.
Right.
But the mechanisms, the things that you're doing and what you're like, the puzzle you're trying to figure out on your own is fascinating. But some of those random factors can kind of make it a little bit less fun than it could be.
Right. Well, my last game of the month was a game that actually I've played throughout this month, and I played it about 7 times this month. But that is, I finally finished the full campaign of Legacy of You.
There you go.
So a solo game put out by Garfield Games. A really interesting design. I think it's... So the one thing is, and the rulebook says this, which I enjoy, is that it says, like, look, the game is going to be hard your first couple of plays, especially if you've never, like, if you've learning this game and you're just training, like, it says, like, expect to lose your first 2 games. And so I played it and I lost my first 2 games. And, like, the first game I lost was not even close. Like, I did awful, you know? But, like, after losing those 2 games, I then, like, went and won the next 7.
Right, okay.
So, like, then I was like, oh, okay, no, like, I get this. Now, one game, I took, like, a little bit of a breather in between, and I forgot, like, one rule, so I kind of cheated for one of the games, and then, like, realized, like, oh, yeah, that's why that game was so easy. Okay, yeah, I forgot that really important rule.
And you didn't go back to do it again?
No, like, I mean, the game, because, like, there is, like, legacy elements, like, some things kind of change. Not really legacy elements. You reset the campaign, and by the time you put it back in the box, it's like you've never touched the game before. Yeah. Everything's identical. But yeah, just a pretty neat little experience, and like a nice 1-player box. I think, yes, when you do kind of figure out, like, I'll say a dominant strategy, like at the end, I was like the last game, because it's got this thing where every time you win, the game gets harder, and every time you lose, the game gets easier. Okay. And so you lose a game, and it's like, here, have this bonus for the next game. And you're like, oh, that's great. That makes, oh yeah, that's real good. So after playing like 7 wins in a row, like eventually I was like, oh geez, this is getting close. So the last game was pretty tight. Okay. But it got to that nice spot where I was like, am I going to win this? I think so.
That sounds fun.
But yeah, nice. I really enjoyed that. So.
That's awesome. Yeah, again, this is one of those things where I want to say I'd like to give that a try, but I don't know if I could ever make myself sit down and like play a solo game that many times. You know? We'll see. The last game I played in the month of June was Raw. Okay, so with Mary Dallas, we played Raw, and this is an amazing auction set collection game. So basically what you're doing in this game is you have a player board, and on one side of the board, you have set collection elements that are going to carry over from round to round in the game. And then on the other side, you have set collection elements that are going to reset every round.
Right.
So you kind of have points that you're going to be kind of working on for the end game. And then you have points that you're like building up, hoping to score quite a bit. Then they're going to go away and you're going to have to reset again. And so on a player's turn, you're going to take a tile out of a bag. You're going to place it kind of in the market. That's right. And you're going to just sort of see how far you can do that until an auction is called. So either a player can call an auction because they're like, there's some good stuff in there, I want to do that. Or there's a red tile that you pull and that automatically calls an auction.
Right.
And so that's neat in moving the game along, because every time there's an auction, it moves kind of the round counter faster, and then once it gets to the end, then you kind of do that reset the phase. And but that dimension of the game, it made me mad. Like, that is not fun to have your turn be a forced call an auction. What I really love is I love the auction mechanism, and I love the set collection. Those two things are really great. Some of my turns just didn't feel great because I was forced into an auction when I wasn't ready to be in an auction. And I wanted to grow that market a little more before I tried to go in and get it. It's definitely this tug of war between, do I trigger an auction when the thing that I really need is out there, but there's only like one or two tiles available? Or do I kind of push my luck and hope that other people won't trigger an auction before there's 3 or 4 more tiles there, and then I can get all of them?
I really like that level of like player interaction where there's that kind of that push your luck, because there's not even, so you can wait till like, but at a certain number of auctions, the round ends, right?
Yes.
And so like even if you have like not bid, like you have 4 bids that you can win, but if you like haven't won, like towards the end of the game, as like that red marker's getting closer and closer to the end, you're like, guess I should probably just start buying stuff, because like the end of the round's coming up and I passed on everything else, and now I'm stuck getting just, But I like that tension of, yes, like, oh, more's getting added. Oh, we're getting closer. Like, do I just start it now just because, I could win it now, instead of like, if I let it go, Dan's for sure gonna take it or whatever. Right.
All right, party people, there you have it. Those are all the games that we played in the month of June. What did you play in the month of June? Let us know down below. We're going to tell you what our favorite board game we played this month is just before we go. Father Greg, what's your best of the month?
Yeah, but for me, like, I'll say Legacy of You, just because I think I probably played this like 7 times.
Nice.
And kind of came to a conclusion, and I've given it to Father Dan to see what he thinks about it.
Okay, cool. I'm excited to see what he thinks.
Yeah, I think it could, like, I don't know how many times I'll play, like, I could replay the whole campaign and redo it. I don't know how many times I will play this game. Like, it might be a game that kind of sits on my shelf now that I've played it like 10 times in a row or whatever. It might be, I might not get it out till next year kind of thing, but I'm anxious to see where it goes.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. My best of the month is Earth. Earth has just kind of skyrocketed into my, wow, I just want to play this game again and again and again and again. I just feel it's so smooth, it's so delightful, it's just composting cards, man. I've never been so high on compost. Holy. So
a lot of compost. You're just discarding cards like left, right, and center.
Oh yeah, it's so good. It's so good. All right, party people, let us know what your best of the month is down below. Please, if you like this video, please press the like button. Please subscribe to the channel. And until next time, party people,
have the best day.